Elephant Man Podcast Network, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room. It's your man DB. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you can know when new material is coming out. Elephant Man _ podcast for IG, for Facebook / Elephant Man Podcast, and for Twitter / Poster Boys. What's going on? Shalom, my people. Shalom, shalom, shalom. What's going on, everybody? Blessings to you all. Man, you know what? I was having a decent, interesting conversation with some urban farmers. You know, shout out to all of those who are growing. You know, we got to get growing. We got to get something growing. You know what I mean? And I showed y'all that's my green, just bigger than that now. I'm going to take an updated picture. They go my herbal bed with my mint, good for your stomach. All right, there go my kale. Got a lot of different things, man. We're trying to get our food grown locally, fresh, so we can know exactly where it comes from. We're trying to teach more people about the benefits of growing fresh foods, man. And I was talking to some mentors, man. Shout out to the Shannons or the Shannon Greens. And they told me to look up, man. They said, look up. They helped me look up some things, and I'm going to share what I looked up. It's very, very interesting. But before I do that, I want to show some videos. What's the difference between the food desert and the food apartheid, right? So we got 3 little videos I'm going to show, and then I'm going to show some stats that I looked up. It rocked my world. It was disheartening. So let's check out this video real quick and check this out.
Of Detroit in the 1960s. And while I was growing up, there were lots of folks here in the city who had moved to Detroit from the South beginning of the 1920s, including my grandparents on both sides. There were grocery stores almost everywhere in the city. There was a national chain grocer within walking distance of every location inside the city of Detroit. That all changed by 2007 when Farmer Jack, the last of those national chain groceries, closed its doors and Detroit became labeled as a food desert. The USDA defines a food desert as a low-income census tract where a substantial number or share of residents has low access to supermarket or local grocery stores. There's multiple problems with the term food desert. One of the problems is that typically people think of a desert as a very barren landscape, and the reality is that a desert is actually a very vibrant ecosystem. Another problem with the definitions used of food deserts is that it presupposes that the answer to these areas that lack access to healthy food is more grocery stores. A third problem with the term food deserts is it's not a term that people living in those areas use to describe their own situation. It's similar to the term at-risk child used in schools. I was a school principal for several years and never heard a parent come to me and say, "This is my son, John. He's an at-risk child." This is a term which is imposed upon communities as opposed to a term that community members use to define their own condition. The fourth and perhaps most problematic issue with the term food desert is that it doesn't speak to the intentionality of the conditions that exist in communities that have low access to healthy foods. The reality is that public policy and economic practices have created these areas that have low access to foods, and food desert does not speak to that intentionality. Recently, the term food apartheid has resonated with myself and other food activists. Dara Cooper defines food apartheid as the systemic destruction of Black self-determination to control our food, including land, resource theft, and discrimination. A hypersaturation of destructive foods and predatory marketing, and a blatantly discriminatory corporate-controlled food system that results in our communities suffering from some of the highest rates of heart disease and diabetes of all times. Many tend to use the term food desert. However, food apartheid, according to Dar, is a much more accurate representation of the structural, racialized inequities perpetuated through our current food system. Whatever term we use to describe this situation, there are vast inequities in the American food system that are caused by historical intentional racist and classist policies, resulting in far too many Black and brown and poor white people not having sufficient access to fresh, healthy, high nutrient dense, affordable food. I join with those who say that such access is a human right and that denying that right in one of the wealthiest nations in the world is unconscionable.
All right. So that's the first video. Very, very, very good. Very good information. Brother put us on game. The difference between the food desert and the food apartheid. So a food desert, like he was saying, it makes it seem like it just happened. Like, oh, it just happened. But a food apartheid points in a direction to say, I don't know if it just happened, but it's historical and intentional. All right, so I'm gonna share this next video. Bear with me. Next video, and then we're gonna share some stats that I have found. Check it out.
We ain't got no food. We don't have food in our community. Good, local, healthy food. We don't have it. Well, we have this little footprint of it, but we don't have it.
Angela's lived on this block for the past 16 years.
I don't know, baby. I can do an inquiry. I know it needed.
And for the last decade, she's been creating and tending to community gardens in the neighborhood.
We try to get whatever's indigenous to the region. You know, ain't no point us trying to grow no bananas. It ain't gonna happen. But our basic cultural staples, we want to grow because when people come and shop at the market, we want to have things that they want to buy and will buy.
We're in Garfield Park, one of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. And like many other South and West Side communities of color, there isn't much access to fresh and affordable food. But Angela's one of several community members working to fix that. Cue the grocery pop-up.
Over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, the Garfield Park neighborhood has experienced a loss of a major grocery store. And so 40 Acres and Top Box and Garfield Park Community Council and Right to Wellness mobilized to secure funding in order to create this pop-up grocery store in order to provide for people's grocery needs.
The neighborhood lost its last grocery store in February of 2022, forcing its residents to leave if they want fresh and healthy food options. But this trend started long before the pandemic. COVID just sped up the process. Now, areas like these are often called food deserts. The term originated in Great Britain in the 90s and gained a lot of traction in the US by the 2000s. But many academics and activists like Liz aren't too keen on it.
I feel like food desert, while a visual that tells people like, oh, there's no food in this area, it's highly inaccurate because there is food here, but it's the kind of food that's here that tells the tale. You have a lot of processed food, a lot of fast food. It is not food that gives life, that gives people health. And I also feel that food desert is a benign term. Deserts tend to be thought of as a naturally occurring environment. So we tend to think, oh, some neighborhoods just don't have food and others do. And that's just market forces. That's just natural forces. And it absolves anybody for any kind of responsibility for why things are the way they are.
Liz believes using the term food apartheid instead of a food desert makes it clear that this didn't happen on accident, but as a result of racially based systematic practices that have been a problem for decades.
So the food equity picture has developed over a long period of time. And the beginning of the end really started after the Civil Rights Movement, as Black Chicagoans moved into more predominantly white areas. White flight happened, and when white residents moved, the businesses moved with them. And over time, the businesses that were in the community shut down, decided not to service these communities anymore. And what wound up happening is they would set up shop in more affluent areas nearby.
Other factors include racially biased zoning codes and lending practices, union busting, and in some cases, supermarket redlining. All of these have a significant impact on the community. They negatively affect public health, impact the availability of jobs, and directly influence how much money stays in the communities that need it the most.
Food is a part of a much bigger picture. This is about commerce. So this is about building neighborhood wealth. This is about expanding the tax base.
And commerce is supposed to be a regenerative cycle. You make your money here, you spend your money here, and it keeps your community going, you know. But if I had to go somewhere else and make my money, which most of us do, then I have to go somewhere else to spend my money. What's the benefit for my community? None.
So that's why when it comes to fixing things, the communities that are actually affected want to be at the forefront of coming up with solutions.
Food is a basic human right. And in a country like the United States that boasts of the kind of abundance that it boasts of, it's shameful that there are communities that do not have access to foods.
Sanaa's the senior director for the Go Green Community Fresh Market, a Southside corner store created, built, and staffed by Inglewood community members. It opened in March of 2022. The market started as an initiative to get more fresh and green products in local corner stores, but it soon grew into something more.
So we really envision this market as a neighborhood grocery store, creating access to nutrient-dense foods, which is healthy, fresh foods at an affordable price.
Affordable. That's the key word here. Because what's the point of having access to fresh food if you aren't able to buy it?
Everybody has like the right to like having healthy food and like food that's not going to kill them. I mean, like we're not even just talking about better quality of food. We're talking about like exponentially, we're talking about edible food versus non-edible food. Like it's like we got to talk about how can people have like a dignified experience with like the food that they eat and that they feel like, okay, like this is great and it's great across the board. And so like it's not this like culture of like you have it and I don't.
Dakari works to make sure that every stop on the food supply chain, from the growers to the distributors, is socially and racially just. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about food, but about our community's longevity.
We're looking at food as like a tool to like remediate like a lot of like the economic loss that like we're seeing. We're looking at food as like a hot spot, like a lightning rod for like employment opportunities to like happen within like different neighborhoods that hadn't necessarily been experiencing that prior to. We're looking at food as like a combatant to like, you know, things that like are kind of detrimental to community.
We need to be building ecosystems, and those ecosystems need to include community-led efforts. It needs to include corner stores and other businesses that typically do exist in neighborhoods like ours. We need to kind of sort of bring them into the fold.
Everything grows from the ground up, not from the top down. When it comes from the top down, it's just what we get. When it comes from the ground up, it gives an opportunity to add the ingredients that you need to make it a full, healthy body of work or whatever it is. Community will buy in.
All right, man. That was pretty long, 7 minutes. The last video is 9 minutes. These people in this video, you know, some of these people I know in the last video, but it's very, very interesting, man. They just talking, see the difference between food desert and the food apartheid. A food desert make you think, oh, it's just a natural phenomenon that just happened. It's a dry place. It's just up. It's just dried up. It's just not. It's a barren place. But a food apartheid points out a racially biased, systematic practices, historical and intentional, and also I never heard this term, supermarket redlining. We know about redlining when you only can live and purchase homes and rent homes in certain areas, and other areas they keep you out of the market by having the cost too high or some kind of barrier to entry so you can't move in those certain areas, right? But I never heard of supermarket redlining. Man, oh man, oh man, right? So my brother was telling me to look up 3 things. He told me to look up how much money the USDA get per, what is the budget for USDA, and look up the mission statement for the USDA. So I'm going to share it so we can read it. And I was kind of tripping off of it a little bit. Put back a little bit about it. This is the USDA fiscal year 2023 budget summary. I don't even know 2023 ain't happened yet, but this is the newest. Let me see, is it showing? Okay. Matter of fact, let me see, can I get that a little bit bigger like that? All right. So, fiscal year 2023 budget summary, USDA, Department of Agriculture, right? And it's just talking about the mission in the area of the agency and rural development. You see that? Now, we know the words, the play on words between rural and urban. So you hear the term rural, what do you think? When you hear the word urban, what do you think? Okay? Unless you've been living under a rock. Okay? So let's go to just talk about this, that, and then I'm going to go right to 2023 funding overview. Operating expense, $31 billion, 12% increase. Okay, here it is. The vision, the vision. I guess that's the vision and the mission together. The mission. Listen to this mission. I'm going to send you a copy of this if you want it. To serve all Americans by providing effective, innovative, scientific-based policy leadership in agriculture, food, and nutrition. So that sounds pretty good. Natural resources protected and managed. Rural development. Okay? That's cool. And related issues with the commitment to delivering equitable and climate-smart opportunities that inspire and help America thrive. And the vision, an equitable and climate-smart food and agricultural economy that protects and improves the health, nutrition, and quality of life for all Americans. Sound real good, real fuzzy. Yield healthy land, forest, and clean water. Helps rural America thrives and feeds the world. Help rural America thrive. This is the United States Department of Agriculture, right? You didn't say nothing about urban. You didn't say nothing about BIPOC, anything like that, right? The funding, what does it say? $31 billion. The mandatory programs, $164 billion, $14.7 billion decrease from 2021, right? But that's still that's still a decent amount of change. Okay, $164 billion. All right. Now I'm going to share another screen. Get rid of that screen, and we're going to go right on to, this other screen right here. The definition. No, rural. Let's go. You see my stuff? You might not can't see it. Just type in rural. Percentage of rural America that is white. This is not mine. This is straight from the Google. Whites make up nearly 80% of the rural population, right there, compared to 85% of the urban population. What's urban? Hispanics are a fast-growing segment of the rural population, but make up just 9%. Okay? So the USDA told you right out the horse's mouth the mission and the vision of the USDA to help out the rural area, right? Now, if we got more urban gardens, you can say, well, y'all don't have the land, y'all don't have the resources. No, that's a bunch of hogwash. You can grow on containers, you can grow in raised beds, you can do no-till, you can get your soil checked and grow right in your backyard, front yard, right? You might have some land. You can grow. And there's so much stuff that grows in good soil, fertile soil, that you have to give some of that stuff away if you don't have a program to sell it to or stuff like that. Percentage of blacks living in rural areas, 7.8%, right? I'm not making this up. I'm just reading numbers. 7.8%. Okay, as opposed to 80%. So the USDA, this is the government. This is not an organization, not just a non-for-profit organization that said we're going to just help out certain people. No, this is the government. They tell you in writing, in their vision and mission statement, who they intend to help. All right. Now I have to look up. I want to get the definition of BIPOC because that's a new word that's being thrown around, and I just learned that word from being doing the urban agriculture. BIPOC stand for Black, Indigenous, and People of Colors. This term is specified in the United States intended to center experience of Black and Indigenous groups and demonstrate solidarity between those communities. So BIPOC. So when you say like a BIPOC farmer, you're talking about a Black, Indigenous, or people of color, brown people, right? So they got different grants out. You guys know they got grants out. They got grants for BIPOC producer grant, right? And so we got people that is not considered BIPOC producers, right? But just think about where's the rural communities at. 80%, I told you, 80% rural community is predominantly white. So if you write a grant for BIPOC producers, right? BIPOC got to handle it, right? That cuts a lot of those people out. And let me tell you, some of those guys are upset. They like, what? I'm like, man, we only got a small piece of the pie. You don't want me to have none of the pie. Or you want to control your piece and my piece. But now they told me that they're trying to expand the definition of BIPOC to include, get this, alphabet people. And I got nothing against alphabet people, veterans, right? So I'm a veteran, but I'm not BIPOC, right? They put this big old umbrella to include everybody in it. It's systematic. It's systematic. I'm not crying wolf, right? The whole illusion of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and work hard and quit crying. If something is systematic in place, you need power from the Most High. But I'm telling you right now, it ain't going to work. I know y'all like, what? Because of 400 years. It's up. The Most High is the first shall be last and the last shall be first. It's going to be a shift. It's going to be a shift. It's going to be a change. Not by nothing that we did, not by might or by power, but by his Ruach. Watch what I tell you. Nothing that we got to do, right? We're going to be brought to the table a lot more. A lot of these secret meetings, it's going to come to naught. It's going to fall through the cracks. It's going to fall. It's going to fail because the Most High is not for that. I'm trying to tell you. Mark my words. Mark my words. Okay? So this is the last video I'm going to show. And shout out to the Shiners, man. But this is the last video I'm going to show. It's very good. I know a few people in this video, but check out this last one.
Food apartheid. I was introduced to it from my wife, and I had questions on why apartheid versus food deserts, which is what we're normally accustomed to hearing. So after some reading, we find that using the term desert will lead someone to believe that it's a naturally occurring event, when in fact it's not. It's planned. You don't open a grocery store here in this neighborhood. You don't open a grocery store close to the neighborhood. If there's a grocery store in the neighborhood, it's not owned by anyone in the neighborhood. And the food that you get are actually leftovers from larger chain stores. What we are, as a company, trying to do is to breach that. And as an urban farming community, we're combating that by using the resources that we have to better serve our community.
We sell at what is called food deserts. and so the reason why they buy from us is because there most of the time are no food grocery stores in their community.
Because I'm all they have. That's really awkward to say, but we're in a food desert, so they don't really have the time to like space or the access to go to like a larger grocery store, and or don't have the resources to get there. So I'm probably their closest access point to fresh fruits and vegetables.
To feed our community, to be able to educate our community, to create a food system is what keeps us going. Our purpose is to serve underrepresented communities by partnering with urban farms to combat food apartheid. So it's important that we do that because of the lack of access to farm fresh foods within our community, whether it's sold second, third, or fourth rate in our stores, or whether our community doesn't have access because lack of transportation. The word of mouth allows us to get that farm fresh produce to our area community by partnering with a number of other farmers within our community by creating this food system so that we feed ourselves and not rely on retail to give us the farm fresh healthy foods that we expect and should have.
The movement, how we're growing and how we're developing, people we're engaging with. I kind of started it as like a thing I want to do, and like people didn't really know who I was, but like as I slowly like done the work and I slowly built the beds and grown the vegetables, I feel like I really developed people who are really passionate about the mission as just as much as I am, and are like my champions now who can go out there and they can speak about it. So I'm really passionate and proud that like I'm able to grow people to like appreciate work that we're doing, and they're really they're ready to champion, like be there for me and to help me do those things.
They trust us. They trust sourcing it from us, how we grow it. They lack the ability to have fresh produce, in some cases delivered if need be, but for the most part they can come by and know that it was picked that day.
One of the biggest challenges in the area that we're in, doing the CSAs and dealing with urban communities, is getting our customer to acknowledge the importance of eating fresh vegetables and the nutrients that it gives, and that there's a cost to it. We partner with different groups in each community and the local growers in those communities to help to educate the community on different things that they need, the challenges that they have, getting them to open their mind up with what type of produce that they have in front of them, what can they make from it. So we do cooking classes, nutritional classes to inform them the benefits of the things, and we also do programs and stuff where we educate them on growing their own food, the things that they can grow in their own backyard so that they can have produce there.
I have our youth program I call it Youth Grow Indie, where each summer I hire a crew of about 5 to 10 youth to come out to the farm and help out.
We also take the next generation and teach them about farming, from neighborhood children, family members with children, little cousins. We teach them how to plant. We're teaching them very early to be self-sustaining and feeding yourself and feeding your family, and what it takes in that work ethic to get that done. Something as simple as being able to harvest seeds from a vegetable that you already have, and knowing that you can actually take that and regenerate by planting that and growing more for your family. And the kids are really excited about that opportunity.
I think that we're starting to get to the point, especially with the CSAs, of getting our customers to recognize the importance of eating fresh produce, knowing who their growers are, buying local, as we promote other farmers and growers. And I believe COVID has kind of helped them to understand that, due to the fact that being in food deserts, they're not able to get access all the time to fresh produce and vegetables that gives them the nutrients for their body to fight off different diseases and things of that nature. And from my understanding, it's the urban communities that are becoming more and more plant-based.
With urban farming, we tend to step very carefully when we're choosing where we seek information. Historically, we've not been received well by different entities, different groups. While the door may be cracked, it's not fully wide open. They don't understand urban gardening as being different from rural gardening.
soil and water, and paid attention to do that whole partnership with them and did a lot about soil and water. And it was great. I haven't used the other ones before just because I always felt like I was too small for them. Like I wasn't like a big enough operation or established enough to be considered for any of their resources that they offer. Like I know the high tunnel grain is an option, but I always felt like I was never like, I'm not their target person. As an urban farmer, we don't always have ownership of our land. We don't have like full control of what happens on our property. And so if they're looking for us to have like this equity in the property or like proving our assets, it's a little bit harder for us to do it that way than the farmers out in the country who have all this property.
We need access. We need access to the same things that rural farmers get. I think one of the first steps is coming into our community to look at what our system is. We have a system in place. We want to be respected for what we do, the food systems that we've created with the networking system that we have. We need help, but we don't need to be rescued. So to come into our community, to sit down, meet the plethora of urban farmers just in the city of Gary alone. So it's a learning experience for them. The needs of our community is quite different from some other areas. We have food apartheid. We have a broken system within our community that they may not be able to see in other areas. So to be able to come here and allow us to teach them what this system is and the history of it and why it is the way it is now and how it impacts us being able to serve our own community and feed ourselves.
Because there's been a gap between the communities and stuff that I serve and the ones that they normally serve, there is a learning curve there of what is needed. A lot of times in our communities and stuff, we are the last to know. They put the information out. The thing is that they don't put them out in the medias and markets that we frequent. If you're going to reach these people, you have to go where these people are. It's our tax dollars that are paying them, and these are some of the benefits that we deserve, and we earn, and belong to us.
It would be nice to see some of those staff circulate throughout the urban farm community to see what they have to offer and what the challenges are and how they can truly help.
I also understand that each urban farmer is different. We all have different growing styles, different practices, different ways we run our farms and manage our farms. And that I think we should be taking it as a case by case basis in a way, and that they understand that how we farm is all different. We're not all the same. We're all not similar in our farming styles. So like just knowing that we're all unique.
Take time and have consideration for these individuals who have been, as they say, underserved. Are socially disadvantaged. There's a reason why they call them that, and that's because the services that they've received is under what it should be given, or that they've been put socially at a disadvantage. These people need help just like everyone else. So they can just come with that understanding and say, hey, it's like a new person being on the job. You got to show them where the bathroom is, where the break room is, and everything else. And once they learn how to get around, it'd be a lot easier.
Yeah. Shout out. Uh-oh, door open. Shout out to Shannon, Nate, and Robin Shannon, the couple in the yellow shirts. Shout out to all of them. They're from Gary. We got some farmers in there. There's from Indianapolis. The guy in the green shirt and the lady with the dreads and the black shirt. Shout out to them too. You know, one thing that was very, very interesting, it was like resources would be available. They would say resources would be available, but it would be a barrier to entry, or those resources wasn't available for the urban farmers, like the high tunnel grant. A high tunnel was those high hoop houses where they put the plastic on. For those who don't know, it can extend your growing season. And so if you get the grant, you can build the hoop house. If you can build the hoop house, then you can extend your growing season. It'll help you, right? Different equipment, right? Different tools that you need, right? Some are affordable, but some things, if you can get equipment, you can get more stuff done quicker. You know what I mean? Then he was talking about the gap presented. The gap in between what we know and what we don't know presents a learning curve. So sometimes it's not that we don't want to know, it's that we don't know. And so I said, well, the papers, well, it was out. We put the information out. You know, you might pull it out after the funds is up, already expended, or you might put it out in media, like you said, media that we don't frequent, right? And so if it's don't get to us, then we don't know that it exists. But then you can say, oh, it do exist because it was out. So you have to do your homework. You have to do your research. We have to create a database. We have to do different things. Everybody's not gonna get in the garden and farming, but I think we should all try to grow something, right? If it's a windowsill garden, if it's some pots and containers, right? Some planters, something, you know, to get you started, to get you motivated, and partner with somebody who do. Some people might not have the physicality, but might have mad space, and you might have the green thumb, but not the space. So you partner with people, right? And you'd be surprised what you can do. And we're gonna be doing more things. Also, these words, you know what I'm saying, like you was talking about at risk and all of that. The other words is underserved communities, right? And socially disadvantaged communities, right? And so those are different things that we those are some of the terms that are used to describe our people. We know exactly who they're talking about when they say that. It's not a dig. It's not a negative connotation, but it is what it is. All right. So I'm gonna share my mission statement and my vision, and then I'm gonna get on out of here. Not you might not care, but this is what we're gonna be doing. We're gonna be doing a lot of food things, and I'm glad we got to get the language of food apartheid instead of food desert. All right. So here we go right here. This is my mission statement. All right. To connect the underserved communities of Northwest Indiana to nutritious, healthy food, and sustainable food systems. So nutritious and healthy food. It's not that we can't get access to food, but we need access to nutritious and healthy food and sustainable food systems, which means it's continual. It can continual, not just a grant is written today and then when that grant dries up, we back in the same situation. But we are autonomous. We are sustainable. We created jobs in our area. We've created education, and we need that. The vision. We envision an empowered, self-sufficient community that will have access to and produce, not just have access to, but to produce healthy food. We envision educational programs to create generational income for the underserved community. Again, I use that language that was used. So underserved community is our community. And if somebody's in an affluent community and they was down bad, of course I give you food. That's just in our nature. You know, that's what the Hebrews do. But I'm just saying my focus is on my community, you know, the underserved community, the food apartheid community. So pray for me, and some things are coming up. It's going to be real good. We're going, for those who are not in the area that I live in, we're going to have some. Hopefully, we better take some road trips and get folks set up, or we could do some stuff via Zoom and via live, and do some online classes. So if that's something you're interested in, put a 1 in the chat. This is a pre-recorded message. So if you're saying something to me and I'm not saying nothing back, it's because it's a pre-recorded message. So I want you to be like, man, he acted funny today. Nah. Elephant Man Podcast Network, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room. I am out of here. 1. Perfect.